hope you guys are doing really well. I'm doing really well because if you look right here, we did it. We've made it to 50 subs. I did not think we would get to this by the end of the year. I just started this channel in March, actually, which is kind of crazy to think that I got that many people's attention. But I guess since we have so many subs now, I mean, it's pretty good, all things considered, especially for somebody who's pretty unknown like me. But I'll give a little quick backstory to anyone that probably hasn't heard it. May not have ever told this, honestly. But put it all into perspective for you. Basically, as the title implies, well, first, of course, is my name. My name is pronounced as Ty, like bow tie, or I guess you would say, or think of the first word in the phrase like tie my shoe or something. But anyway, but yeah, the other part of the title, Metalhead Weatherman, yeah, that's exactly what you think it is. If the little album covers here aren't enough of an indicator, I also play guitar and do vocals for a music project right now. I'm trying to work on getting that into a band, getting that to form into a band, I should say. But that's a work in progress. I have a second channel where you could look at all that. Link to that will be in the top right hand corner here. But while I love doing extreme music, I've been a huge weather nerd since about maybe 3.5, 4 years old. I remember seeing a video of Dr. Greg Forbes on the TV screen on the Weather Channel, and I think he was talking about the Moore, Oklahoma tornado from 1999, and for whatever reason, that was it. And, well, really, even before that, I remember being a kid running up to, or a toddler running up to the window during the thunderstorm to look at the lightning. Times I would even get scared if it got close or there was really bright flashes, but somehow I would always find my way back at the window. So I guess that was a sign from the beginning that I had to have a hand in the weather somehow. So yeah, here we are. But thank you guys. I appreciate you a bunch. Definitely not looking to stop here though. I want to make this channel much bigger than 50 subs. I want to do a lot of other cool stuff. I'm going to really work on, especially over the rest of this year, to make this channel that much better. But anyway, we're here. This channel is here to talk about weather, not necessarily my backstory or my personal life. So I guess we will go ahead and do it. We'll go ahead and do a weekend forecast. It's been a staple on the channel. I guess we'll keep that going here. So we'll start with the severe weather outlooks. Not too much going on here. There's a small chance of severe weather in northern Wisconsin. And then over towards the Gulf and Atlantic coast here, there's a marginal risk for severe weather there as well. Go ahead and look into the details, but as you can also see in that last frame, there was no focused area of severe weather on Saturday or Sunday, which is always good news. I do think that may very well be changing in the coming weeks, so definitely stay tuned to the channel. We'll be all over that. That being said, let's go ahead and look at the marginal threat. And interestingly enough, over here on the southern one, that's towards Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida, we have a small very marginal tornado threat, 2% chance, and that's associated with a upper level low here that's spinning in the Gulf, and we'll go into detail with that in a minute. The main threat, of course, is going to be damaging wind. The hail threat, minimal here. The hail threat is going to be greatest further up north. Lapse rates there are slightly higher, and there's a little bit more convection to work with. Convection with tropical systems is a little bit different from the traditional convection that we're used to dealing with. So that being said, like I said, day 2, no real concentrated area of severe weather, just a mass of your garden variety thunderstorms. And there's your proof right there. And then the same thing for Sunday. Plenty of thunderstorms, especially around the eastern half of the country, but there is a little bit of an increase in wet weather activity over towards the southwest here. Hopefully it can cool these guys off because they're catching it real bad. They're dealing with heat, and also thanks to Tropical Storm K here, which we'll talk about in a minute, it's also raising the humidity. Just imagine having a regular temperature of about 99, 100 degrees, and then you're having tropical like humidity. That's awful. And these guys, I'm sure they're not real used to that. Where I'm from, which is Atlanta, by the way, we're kind of used to having those high dew points that like towards about 60 and 70 with those 80s and 90s. And even so, even though it happens here pretty often, it still gets really uncomfortable. So I feel for you guys out here. But soon K should be moving out of there, and maybe the dew points will start to go back down. All right, so let's go ahead and get into K right quick. Tropical Storm K is really starting to weaken here finally. It's becoming less and less organized as it goes to a more unfavorable area, especially after its land interaction. And the thought is it will become a remnant low by tonight. We're at a minimal tropical storm at this point with 40 mile per hour winds, and the rain should be continuing, unfortunately, in northwestern Mexico and southern California. So let's go ahead and take a look at this on the radar imagery real quick. You can just see this thing. It's not going to last much longer. I don't even think it's going to last long enough to finish the path that the NHC has made for it. Because look at that. Come tomorrow, this becomes a post-tropical entity, and it becomes a post-tropical depression at that. I do think by the end of this weekend it falls apart. NHC is agreeing with me on that. These tropical storm warnings, I'm expecting those to expire probably within the next 24 hours tops, but I would say 12 to 18 hours, honestly. And then when we look at, and there's really nothing else to really look at with this here, we're pretty much getting ready to say bye to this thing. So we'll go ahead and move on with that. Not much has really changed with Hurricane Earl. We'll do a quick tropical update in the midst of this thing, in the midst of this going on here. If anything, I don't even think this is going to make major hurricane here. It already looks like it's starting to become a little bit more unhealthy now. It did make a quick jump up to 105 miles an hour. That does look like it's starting to really organize itself once more. It may make one more push for it, but I'm not too convinced it's going to make it to major hurricane, which would be 115 miles an hour. So we'll go ahead and look at the path real quick. This becomes a powerful post-tropical cyclone by Saturday afternoon. Of course, this is in Atlantic Standard Time, so probably Saturday morning in Eastern Time, and so on and so forth. I think by the middle of next week, we'll be on the verge of saying goodbye to Earl. Not many impacts with it. It won't leave too much of a legacy behind, thankfully. And we'll just kind of go on from there. Also wanted to mention, I issued a little bit of a challenge to you guys yesterday in the last video. Link for that will be in the top right hand corner. But said if my video yesterday were to get 5 likes, we'll see what the remnants, we'll keep a close eye on the remnants of Danielle and watch where they may impact. There isn't too much of Danielle left, to be honest. I don't even know if it makes it there, to be honest, in my honest opinion, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes. If anything significant happens, of course, I'll make a video on it, other than it falling apart, which I'm honestly expecting. But if you want me to cover it, like I said, give me 5 likes, or you can let me know in the comments. But that's pretty much it for the tropics right now. We were looking at another invest out in the Atlantic, but that sense has started to fall off and is continuing to fall off. Looking to head out to sea as well to an unfavorable environment, and we can expect the system to pretty much fall apart without even before it even forms together. So that being said, we will move on to the satellite imagery over the U.S. and finish up our weekend forecast here. So here is what our imagery looks like right now. We're going to go with the water vapor here particularly, because this gives us an idea of what's going on in the upper levels of the atmosphere, where our moisture is, and what we could be dealing with over the next several hours. So here's our low that's spinning off the Gulf right now. There's a lot of dry air getting into it. We'll pretty much solidify that we have no chance of this thing forming into anything major. So don't worry about that there. But what this is definitely going to do as a result, though, it is going to definitely increase the inclement weather that's going on around the south and east, and maybe even towards the mid-Atlantic. So this weekend might be a wash if you're in Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and maybe a few areas a little further north like Arkansas, a few states further north like Arkansas, maybe some parts of southeastern Missouri and Kentucky as well. A few mid-Atlantic states, I wouldn't rule you out for having some rainfall sometime this weekend. And we'll go over the rainfall totals in a bit. But beyond that, between this low here and this cold front that's coming behind that, it is going to drop some of the temperatures around the eastern half of the country. Then when we look over here, here's Tropical Storm K. Here is what, honestly, I'm already willing to call the remnants of Tropical Storm K. Bringing in its high dew points and squally weather into the southern part of California. Also feeding some moisture into Arizona and parts of New Mexico. We also have western Mexico in play here for some squally weather, especially towards the southern end. Wow. But this is going to make for a very uncomfortable weekend for the southern part of Cal here. Mostly not just due to the squally weather, but due to the warm temperatures. This is not really bringing our temperatures down, unfortunately. And that's the real issue. But we are still getting that tropical dampness or moisture in the air. So unfortunately, dew points are going to be very high. It's going to be a very stagnant couple of days around here. My best advice to you is to have plenty of water and electrolytes if you're going to be outside. Otherwise, just have the AC running and do the best that you can. And then pretty much around the rest of the country, we're actually going to be looking at a point where things are cooler than average. Once this front passes through, you can kind of almost see it represented by the dry air here. That we are on the backside of a cold front here. We're looking at a potential for some temps to be about 10 to 20 degrees below average. A nice break for a lot of you guys, because pretty much everybody in the country this summer has been baking. We even have had a small report of some snow in the highest elevations towards the Rockies, which is the first recorded snow of the summer or fall or meteorological fall. So that's your telltale sign. We're gonna have to prepare for a little bit of everything now. It's gonna be some long videos on the channel. Just a fair warning. This one's running pretty long, honestly. A lot longer than most of my other weekend forecast videos. That being said, let's go on and try to wrap this up. Try to keep it under 20 minutes. That's been a big trend of mine lately. All right, so we'll go ahead and loop this real quick, and we'll have a quick idea, and we'll gain a pretty quick idea of what the temps are going to look like. I pretty much have already discussed it, but now you'll get to see a little bit of a visual image of what I was saying. Here's our front right here. This is all, you can kind of see it just represented in that line. It's like a pretty good contrast. We were seeing 80s here, and then right behind this we're getting 60s and 50s. Then right behind the front it tries to warm back up here, but I do think that cold air is going to eventually start to win out here, especially as we start to get into Sunday afternoon. You can almost kind of see remnants of it right here where the showers and thunderstorms are. We make our push towards Monday, maybe we start to warm back up. But this could result in a moderately comfortable weekend for some of you guys. I'm hoping so for a lot of you, because especially over towards the central Midwest and even the northern parts of the Midwest, it's been pretty hot. Still got a lot of warm air that seems to be funneling in from Canada, though, so I don't think we're out of the woods just yet. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the dew points, because for a lot of you guys, for everyone that's a football fan, college football season is pretty much in full swing now. So anyone that's going to be out in any games, we'll go ahead and take a look at the dew points. Again, it's pretty much the same deal, no matter where you are, but especially if you have like high dew points. Have that water, have some electrolytes on you, because you're going to be sweating a lot, and it's going to be a very sticky, messy kind of day. All right. So you can see that tropical moisture working its way into the south and west, as we see K here spinning offshore. We can see those dew points getting into the mid to upper 60s here. I think towards the end of the weekend, though, we can start to see those retreat maybe. I think maybe into the midweek we may have a shot at those dew points starting to go back down to normal, or for what's normal for you guys. Of course, over towards the south and over towards the eastern half of the country, nothing new here, and parts of southern Texas. Very muggy, very humid, just another day for us. Anywhere else around the country, if you're under the 50s and below, it's relatively nice, unless you're right around this region here, towards the central, northwest, and maybe even the southwest here, where we have those really low dew points. That's when you have to maybe be a little bit more careful when it comes to fire weather here. You might want to be a little bit more watchful with what you're burning and where you're burning it. That being said, we'll go ahead and take a quick look at what the radar could look like over the next few days. Just one quick time before we sign out here. That and looking at the rainfall totals. We'll roll it. I'm actually going to do this old school way and try to just scoot this along nice and slow. Again, here's our upper level low here. It's going to be associated with all the moisture and rainfall that will be occurring in the south and east. There is a small threat for flooding, but it's mainly going to be towards the southeastern Atlantic coast. The Gulf Coast has a slightly smaller threat, I would say, but definitely towards the Atlantic and maybe even the mid-Atlantic towards the end of this weekend, we might have to watch for an increased flood threat, because you can almost see when I'm rolling through here, the flow of this is going to have a lot of rain, a lot of moisture going over the same areas over and over again. That's what we call training, and usually with tropical associated with rain associated with any sort of tropical systems, these tend to have some pretty hefty downpours, so we'll need to be very careful of that if you happen to be in one of these areas. And then here's another upper level low that comes in towards the end of the weekend and in towards Monday. Looks like it gets a little bit of spin going here as well, interestingly enough. Tries to strengthen a little, but we'll have to watch that and see what that does towards the Ohio Valley here. But it looks like this will also drag some cold air down with it momentarily. Maybe a little bit further north there could be a chance of severe weather, even north of the border, based off what I saw on the temperature map. We'll go into detail with that for another time, though. Alright, last thing we're going to look at here is our quantitative precipitation. This could be the amount of rainfall that we deal with in each area, in pretty much all areas of the country. So we'll just kind of jump this right to the end here, really. Bullseye, like I said, is going to be mainly... actually, I'm a little surprised here. That little piece of energy here, that low pressure, is going to really dump a lot of rainfall over Illinois and Wisconsin towards late Sunday night into Monday. Then over towards the south and east, it's going to be some patchy weather. It's going to be some patchy areas where we get some pretty hefty rainfall rates We could be looking at about 2 inches plus easily. In the yellows, we could be looking at, there's pockets of yellow here and maybe even a few oranges where we could be looking at 4 to 6 inches. Can't rule that out. Towards the panhandle of Florida, I'm definitely a little bit concerned about you guys having a shot at some flooding. Now, one thing that I'm going to mention here with this before I sign off here is you guys are going to have the heat and the humidity over here in Southern California, but for the most part, the rain is actually going to stay offshore. It's going to be just far enough to the west here, and it's going to be just weak enough to where you'll get some of the moisture, and you will get probably a few squally showers and storms, but as far as anything major, I'm not expecting too much. Maybe towards the Baja and California border here, we could maybe look at some increased flooding threat, but the big winners, of course, like I said, Wisconsin, parts of Iowa and Illinois, and then over towards the south and east, we have the Gulf Coast in Florida, and maybe some parts of the coastal Carolinas in play for some hefty rainfall, some flooding. But this is pretty much it. This is pretty much it for the video here. I really appreciate you guys supporting the channel so far. I have a lot more to do. I'm happy to be going on this journey with you guys, and I will be seeing you guys very soon. But until the next video, this has been Tired Metalhead Weatherman. I'm signing off. Y'all have a good Friday.